Some neighborhoods are built on trust, others on fear, power, and silence. In Willowgate Estates, it wasn't the picket fences or manicured lawns that kept people in line. It was the HOA president who knew how to twist the rules like a knife. Most residents learned to play along. Most, except Jason Rourke. He didn't care about politics or patio regulations. All he wanted was peace. But when two fake enforcers broke into his home, pretending to wield power, they didn't have Jason learn something bigger was festering beneath the surface. And what started as a home invasion would end in a reckoning. None of them saw coming. The knock was too loud, too sudden. The kind of knock that didn't belong in a quiet neighborhood like Willowgate, where front doors were more often tapped than pounded. Jason Rourke froze in his home office, fingers hovering above his laptop's keyboard. He wasn't expecting anyone. He never did. His eyes flicked to the live feed on his security monitor. Two men stood at the front door in ill-fitting police uniforms. Something was off. Their badges glinted too much under the porch light. Their shoulders bore strange HOA enforcement patches sewn on like a last-minute Halloween costume. Jason leaned forward. His instincts, sharp from his days in military intelligence, flared like a red siren. HOA enforcement! Open up! One of them barked, his tone aggressive, demanding Jason's heart ticked faster. His HOA was strict. Sure, but impersonating police to enforce a noise complaint? No way. His house was spotless. His yard trimmed, his daughter's toys neatly stacked. There was nothing to inspect. Still, Jason moved quietly to the door, keeping his left hand near the lock and his right hidden behind the wall. "What's this about?" he called, not opening. "We received a report of unauthorized renovations," said the taller man, his voice flat and cold. "You need to let us in. Where's your warrant?" Jason's voice was calm, but steel-threaded. "We don't need one," the shorter man said, shifting his weight. "We have HOA authorization." Jason nearly laughed, but he didn't. He cracked the door just wide enough to get a better look. The taller one stepped forward, shoving the door wide open with his shoulder. "What the?" Jason staggered backward, his reflexes kicking in too late. Both men pushed in their boots, heavy on the hardwood. The taller one's gaze swept the living room. The other strolled toward the kitchen like he owned the place, running his hand along the marble island, whistling low. Jason's eyes narrowed. This wasn't about an HOA violation. It was a setup. He flicked his eyes toward the security panel tucked beside the kitchen fridge, exactly 10 feet away. Behind the vase of plastic lilies, hidden behind the touchscreen, was a silent alarm button, wired straight to his private security detail, Lila. He turned his head, ever so slightly. His 8-year-old daughter stood on the stairs, clutching her stuffed rabbit and the little pink toy camera she'd been using all morning. Her eyes were wide, her lips trembling. Jason gave her a subtle shake of the head. "Stay there." "What do you want?" Jason asked, voice low. "Just need to take a look around," said the taller man as if they were doing him a favor. "People say you've got something to hide." Jason's hands curled into fists. He'd fought in Afghanistan. He'd faced real threats, real enemies. These two clowns were amateurs, but dangerous nonetheless, and they had crossed the wrong man's threshold. The shorter one opened a drawer, rifling through pens and keys. He picked up Jason's car fob and twirled it. "Nice wheels. Let's take a look inside." Jason moved closer to the alarm panel. "Just a few more steps. Put that down," he said tightly. "Or what?" the man replied, smirking. Jason pressed the button. A soft click echoed behind the panel. The light turned red. And then, silence. 5 seconds. 10. Then boom, the back door burst open. 3 figures in black tactical gear stormed in. Weapons raised laser sights cutting through the air like blades. "Drop your weapons. Hands where we can see them." The room exploded into chaos. The taller man turned too slow. The butt of a rifle cracked against his shoulder, dropping him instantly. The shorter one reached for his waistband. Bad move. He was on the floor before he could blink. A knee, pressed between his shoulder blades, Lila screamed from the stairs. Jason rushed to her, scooping her into his arms. "It's okay," he whispered. "Daddy's got you." Marcus Kelly, head of Jason's private security, stepped forward. his expression cool, lethal. "Clear," he announced. Jason set Lila down gently and turned to the intruders. They were zip-tied, bruised, confused. "Who sent you?" Marcus asked. The taller one spat blood. "You'll regret this." Jason stepped forward, kneeling beside him. His voice was cold steel. "No, you will." He glanced back at Lila now, safely in the arms of the housekeeper, then to Marcus. "Let's call the cops." "And the real HOA," Marcus smirked. "Already on it." Jason stood, shoulders squared. The war wasn't over, but tonight, he had won the first battle, and this time, the enemy had come knocking on his door. The police cruiser's red and blue lights still flashed faintly down the block, but the two intruders were long gone, book-charged, and en route to jail. Inside the house, the air was thick with adrenaline damp, with the scent of rain on the wind, and something else unease. Jason sat on the edge of his dining table, one foot tapping rhythmically against the hardwood. Marcus leaned against the wall, arms folded, a file folder under one arm, expression unreadable. Across from them, Detective Carla Mendez flipped through pages of incident documentation, her pen moving fast. "So let me get this straight," she said, not looking up. "Two men dressed as HOA enforcement forced entry into your home. No warrant, no ID, and claimed authority based on a community complaint." Jason nodded. "That's right. They stole your keys, attempted to search your vehicle, and threatened you." "Yep. And I have everything on surveillance." Inside and out, Marcus handed over a flash drive. High-res video and audio captured, from 6 angles time-stamped. Synced. Detective Mendez whistled softly. "You guys don't mess around." "We can't afford to," Marcus replied. "Jason has testified in multiple high-profile fraud and embezzlement cases. He's got enemies." Jason leaned forward. "But this wasn't just random. The uniforms, the language they used, even the fake ID badge. It felt rehearsed. Someone was behind it, someone local. Any recent disputes with your HOA?" Mendez asked. Jason let out a breath. "Funny, you ask. There's been a leadership change. New president Gregory Tolan. Real estate lawyer, flashy, power-hungry. Started cracking down on minor violations, decor fencing height, garden layouts. He's been trying to implement aesthetic code enforcement patrols, which sounded shady, even before tonight," Marcus added. "He also owns property management firms across the county. Half his income comes from exploiting HOA fine structures." Mendez raised an eyebrow. "So he has motive. If these men were acting under his direction, even unofficially," Jason nodded. "It's not just about me. It's about control. And if I hadn't hit that silent alarm, this could have ended a lot worse." She jotted a note. "I'll need access to HOA meeting minutes, their internal communications emails, text logs if possible." "You'll have them by morning," Marcus said. Just then, the doorbell rang. Everyone froze. Marcus was already moving. He checked the monitor, then waved Jason over. "It's your neighbor, Mr. Langston." Jason frowned and opened the door. Standing on the porch was Paul Langston, a retired schoolteacher and longtime Willowgate resident. He held a manila folder in one hand and wore a look of quiet desperation. "Jason," Paul said, his voice hushed. "I heard what happened. We all did." Jason stepped aside to let him in. "You okay?" Paul nodded, his eyes darting toward Detective Mendez, before settling on Jason again. "I need to show you something." He opened the folder and pulled out a printed email dated 2 weeks prior. It was from Gregory Tolan, sent to select HOA board members. Jason scanned the message. His stomach turned. "Residents like Rourke think they're above the rules. If we let that slide, we lose control of the neighborhood. I'll handle it personally. Just stay quiet." Below it were several attachments, mock drafts of enforcement notices, some marked confidential. Jason looked up, stunned. "He was planning this." Paul nodded. "And it gets worse. He's been using HOA funds to contract private investigators, surveilling families he considers uncooperative. I found receipts for unreported spending, over $20,000. Detective Mendez leaned in. "We'll need every document you've got. If this is true, it's not just impersonation, it's fraud, harassment, conspiracy. Jason felt the pieces locking into place. This wasn't just about him, it was systemic targeted. He looked toward the staircase where Lila had fallen asleep against her stuffed rabbit, unaware of the storm that raged just outside her little world. This wasn't just his fight anymore. This was war, and it was far from over. 3 nights after the break-in, the Willowgate Community Center was packed, wall to wall, residents buzzing with anxious chatter. Some furious, others confused, all drawn in by one thing. The rumor that their beloved HOA president, Gregory Tolan, was about to face public exposure. Jason stood near the back wall, arms folded, face unreadable. Beside him, Marcus stood like a sentinel. Detective Mendez was already seated inside, plainclothes blending in but very much watching. At the front, Tolan sat at the head of the board table, perfectly composed in a tailored navy suit. His smile was tight, controlled, like a poker player, holding a weak hand and bluffing for his life. "Let's call this meeting to order," he said smoothly. "We're here to address recent concerns regarding safety rule enforcement, and unfortunately some wild accusations being spread without evidence." Jason stepped forward. The crowd quieted as he approached the front, carrying a laptop and a thick binder. "I have evidence," Jason said, voice calm but sharp, "and I think this community deserves to see it." Tolan laughed politely, but there was a flicker of panic in his eyes. "Mr. Rourke, this isn't the appropriate forum." "It is," said Mr. Langston, rising from the third row. "We're homeowners. This is our forum." Cheers and murmurs erupted. Someone clapped. Tolan banged a gavel order. Jason plugged in his laptop. The screen behind him lit up with surveillance footage. The 2 fake officers entering his home. Their bogus uniforms, their illegal search. The audio was clear, their threats, their arrogance. The room went still. Then came the emails, Tolan's own words, the digital trail, the fabricated complaints, the off-the-books security budget, HOA money funneled into personal accounts, the secret contracts with private investigators, the intimidation campaign. Jason turned to face the crowd. This wasn't about enforcing rules. It was about control, fear extortion disguised as governance. Tolan stood jaw clenched. "This is slander. None of that proves I ordered anything." Jason turned back to the screen. Marcus hit play. A new recording, a phone call. "Gregory," Tolan's voice unmistakable. "If he doesn't fall in line, we shake him. Send a warning, make him sweat." The crowd gasped. A woman near the front stood up. "That was my husband. You fined for his wheelchair ramp." Another man rose. "You towed my daughter's car during finals week. You said it was for visual harmony." The room erupted into shouts, disbelief, anger. Years of silence crumbling under the weight of truth. Gregory's face turned white. For the first time, he looked small. Detective Mendez stood, flashing her badge. "Gregory Tolan, I'm placing you under arrest for criminal conspiracy, fraud impersonation, and misuse of HOA funds. You have the right to remain silent." As she cuffed him, the board sat frozen in shame. Some looked away. Others lowered their heads. Outside, the sound of sirens grew closer. Jason watched as Gregory was led out, in front of the entire community he once ruled. But this wasn't just his victory. It was a reckoning for every neighbor, bullied, every child who cried when their swing set was torn down, every family that had felt unwelcome in their own home. And as the doors of the center opened and the cool night air rushed in, Jason stepped outside. For the first time in months, the streetlights didn't feel like spotlights. They felt like lanterns marking the end of a very dark road. He looked up at the stars. Not a bad place to start over.